In this video, we'll be taking a look at 3 college football games happening on September 10, 2022. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 3 college football games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start. If you would like to gain access to our best exclusive betting picks to take your sports betting journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below where we offer anywhere from 1 betting pick a day up to 10 betting picks a day and much more. Now let's get started. Samford versus Georgia. The Samford Bulldogs and the Georgia Bulldogs meet Saturday in college football action from Sanford Stadium. Samford opened up their season versus Kennesaw State, eventually carving out a 10-point victory. As for Georgia, they played Oregon in their opener. In that one, Georgia rolled in a 46-point win. Samford had a rough season in 2021. The Bulldogs finished 4-7 overall and 3-5 in SoCon games. That result left Samford just 2 spots out of the basement in the conference standings, ahead of only the Citadel and Wofford. In their opener matchup versus Kennesaw State back on Thursday, Samford outscored the Owls 13-0 in the final quarter to power out a comeback win 27-17. QB Michael Hires finished with 289 yards and 4 scores, while Kendall Watson caught 9 balls for 187 yards and 2 touchdowns. Over on the Georgia side, they had a great 2021 with just 1 blemish. The Bulldogs went 14-1 overall and a clean 8-0 in the Southeastern Conference. Georgia lost the Southeastern Conference championship game to Alabama 41-24, but then took out Michigan and Alabama in the CFP matchups for a consensus national title. In their first game of the 2022 season versus Oregon, Georgia scored in every quarter on the way to a crazy 49-3 blowout win. Quarterback Stetson Bennett managed 368 yards with 2 scores, and Kendall Milton had 8 carries for 50 yards and a touchdown to lead the rushers. Kenny McIntosh added 9 catches for 117 yards. In Samford's matchup versus the Owls, the Bulldogs were playing from behind at several points, but they rallied for a nice fourth quarter and some solid offensive numbers. Samford managed 402 total yards during the win despite only 20-54 in time of possession. As for Georgia, they put the country on notice with their blowout dismantling of Oregon over the weekend. The Bulldogs posted 571 total yards, 9.2 yards per play, 26 first downs, and 9 of 10 on third down tries. Georgia will win this game by a landslide as well, but with such a huge line, Samford may be able to get in there if the Bulldogs take their foot off the gas pedal late. So the Samford Bulldogs cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Houston versus Texas Tech. The Houston Cougars collide with the Texas Tech Red Raiders in a state rivalry battle on Saturday afternoon. The Cougars needed overtime to beat UTSA in their season opener. The Red Raiders had an easy opponent in their first action, beating FCS opponent Murray State by a score of 38-10. Texas Tech posted a 38-21 win against Houston in the season opener last season. This game features an in-state showdown as number 25 Houston travels to Lubbock to face the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Houston is coming off of a wildly successful season and has sights set on being a top team from the group of 5, but to do so they will need to upend the Red Raiders in a tough road test. Houston will also be moving to the Big 12 in 2023, and this game carries extra significance as the Cougars aim to prove they belong. Texas Tech likely cares about none of that, however, as they are a rebuilding program under a rookie head coach who is hungry to notch a victory over a ranked opponent. Texas Tech opened the season last weekend with a thumping of an overwhelmed Murray State team, 63-10. The Red Raiders threw for a blistering 472 yards in an offense that looks to go vertical as often as possible. The story of the game, however, was the loss of senior quarterback Tyler Show, who is expected to miss a couple of weeks with a shoulder injury. Texas Tech entered the season with multiple quarterbacks whom they intended to use, and Donovan Smith stepped in and posted a cool 1-4-of-1-6 line for 221 yards and 4 touchdowns. Houston, on the other hand, scratched out a 37-35 victory in the third overtime, beating a pesky San Antonio squad. Senior QB Clayton Tune threw for 206 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he also led the Cougars in rushing with 51 yards and a score. The Cougars expect big things from Tune this season, a star who has started over 30 games in his career, and is set to eclipse 10,000 career passing yards before the season is over. The alarming part of the UTSA game was that Houston gave up 441 yards of total offense, 337 of which came through the air, which is bad news with the Red Raiders on the horizon. What can we expect from this game? One of the keys to the game will be the trench battle between the Texas Tech offensive line and the Houston defensive line. The Houston front four have been dubbed Sack Avenue, finishing 5th in the country last season for sacks. Meanwhile, the Red Raider offensive line is a total rebuild this season. They were not exposed against Murray State, but the Houston front line might make it much more difficult for the Raiders to get vertical. On the other side of the ball, Houston should be more effective this week on offense, having had a week to work out the bugs. Besides, Texas Tech is not expected to be a good defense this year anyway, if things go the way people project. Houston is the better and more experienced team. The scoring ability of Texas Tech at home is always scary, but Houston's defense should be able to keep things under control. With such a small spread, I'm going to go with the better team, even if they are the road underdog. So Houston to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Houston went through a nail-biter, but they used their solid offense to outlast UTSA. But the defense was still an issue, while the same could potentially be said for Texas Tech with a major step up in class here. I think this one's shaping up to be a shootout for 4 quarters and wouldn't be surprised if both teams got into the high 30s or low 40s here. Over the projected total is our full game total pick. Iowa State versus Iowa. The Iowa State Cyclones and Iowa Hawkeyes meet Saturday in Week 2 college football action at Kinnick Stadium. The Iowa State Cyclones look for another win after smoking Southeast Missouri State in their opener. The Iowa Hawkeyes look for a 2-0 start after escaping South Dakota State. The Iowa State Cyclones have lost their last 3 road games. Hunter Dekkers is completing 80.6% of his passes for 293 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Xavier Hutchinson and Darren Wilson Jr. have combined for 167 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns, while Jalen Knoll has 6 receptions. The Iowa State Cyclones' ground game is averaging 176 yards per contest, and Jairo Brock leads the way with 104 yards and 1 touchdown. Defensively, Iowa State is allowing 10 points and 320 yards per game. Colby Reeder leads the Iowa State Cyclones with 5 tackles. Jeremiah Cooper has 1 pass deflection, and Anthony Johnson Jr. has 1 pass deflection. The Iowa Hawkeyes have won 7 of their last 8 home games. Spencer Petras is completing 44% of his passes for 109 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Arlen Bruce IV and LeSean Williams have combined for 91 receiving yards on 7 catches, while Sam Laporta has 2 receptions. The Iowa Hawkeyes' ground game is averaging 61 yards per contest, and Williams leads the way with 72 yards on 24 carries. Defensively, Iowa is allowing 3 points and 120 yards per game. Jack Campbell leads the Iowa Hawkeyes with 11 tackles. Joe Evans has 2 sacks, and Quinn Schultz has 4 pass deflections. The Cyclones are 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 road games and 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games overall. The Hawkeyes are 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 home games and 2-6-1 against the spread in their last 9 games overall. The under is 13-6 in Cyclones' last 19 games overall. The under is 13-6-1 in Hawkeyes' last 20 home games. The Cyclones are 7-3 against the spread in their last 10 meetings in Iowa. The Iowa State Cyclones are a live dog with how Iowa looked in its opener on the offensive side. Iowa better find some sort of offense if this game is going to be successful. The Iowa State Cyclones are not South Dakota State, respectfully, of course. With that said, Iowa has won each of the last 6 meetings against the Cyclones and 7 of the last 8 meetings. And while the Iowa offense has concerns, that Hawkeyes defense is elite and will keep them in games regardless. I need a couple more points to back the road team here, so the Iowa Hawkeyes to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Cyclones lost many key players to the defense but are still probably above average. Last week, the Hawkeyes played without their top RB Gavin Williams and top WR Keegan Johnson. Williams is expected to play but Johnson is out. I don't expect a ton of offense after only recording 109 total yards last week. In addition, the Cyclones also lost star RB Breece Hall to the NFL, and as mentioned, Dekkers is in his first year as the #1 quarterback. The Hawkeyes' magnificent defense is going to frustrate many foes this season. Iowa conceded 22 or fewer points 10 times last year and allowed only 120 total yards last week. The under is 5-0 in the Hawkeyes' last 5 September games. This will be a defensive battle. Under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed. Subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.